And this one comes like, we had Grizzies.
Oh, Grizzies, hot dogs.
Yeah, I'm like, what is a Grizzy?
Why is that a thing?
Yeah,
I mean, like, there's grizzly bear.
Yeah.
There's hot dogs. Why is that? Why is that? Is that the intro, CJ, for real?
Welcome back to the NOIC Godcast. This month we've been following the facts, and it's been really good so far. I think I say that every week, or every time it's mine.
Have you ever not liked it? Don't answer that.
Oh, it'd be awkward if I came out here and said, well, that was a horrible one.
Last week was horrible. We'll try better this time.
Yeah. Which, I mean,
Okay,
This one's
that's
mine.
fair. So today I'm going to be sharing an analogy. I believe if we truly live by this, it would really change our lives. I got this version of it, from Nathan Johnson on deeperchristian.com. Is it the deeperchristian.com?
I think it's just Deeper Christian.
Is it just Deeper Christian?
There's a the.
Okay.
Just a www.
After I said it, I was like, oh,
There's a www.
Okay.
World Wide Web.
Yeah. She's just telling us definitions of everything.
So we have three characters in our story: fact, faith, and experience. And then there's this ridgepole, right, of a building that seems impossible to walk across. It's only a few inches wide. One wrong step, and you just fall off.
Should you explain what a ridgepole is?
Ridgepole is where the...
Because I think when I told the story, you didn't know what a ridgepole was, or genuine. Someone was like,
Yeah.
"What is a ridgepole?"
So
I
it's
don't know what a
where the
ridgepole is.
I
roof
don't know what it
meets.
is
It's a
either.
peak of a roof.
It's where the roof meets comes together.
Two pieces come together.
So you
make
have
the
the
peak. It's the ridgepole.
Okay.
Obviously.
Yeah,
I
okay.
thought-
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
It's the, so there's the peak, and then there's the part that runs
It's
across.
the part you sit on when you're sitting on a roof.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
We all caught up now. I'm so sorry. Okay.
No,
It's
now
okay.
you have three characters.
Okay, so there's three characters, fact, faith, experience, and then there's a ridgepole. Okay. So it's impossible to walk across, right? Wow. It's only a few inches wide, and one wrong step you'll fall off. So fact knows for certain that he can walk it. He knows the truth, and he can confidently walk across from one side to the other. Experience has never been able to walk it. Every time experience tries, he stumbles and falls. Faith is then asked to walk the ridgepole. He has to place his trust in either fact or experience. Experience says you'll fall off, can't be done. Every time I do this, I fail. Fact doesn't hesitate. He's confident because his basis is on the truth. If faith would place his trust in fact instead of experience, he too could walk across with no problems. So this can be applied to every area of our lives. When we start looking at our past mistakes or looking at what we can do ourselves, we're going to fall. When we look to the truth, also known as the Bible, we see a different story.
Yep.
I use this time and time in my life when Satan comes whispering into my ear, so-and-so is upset with you, or the only reason they're asking you to sing is because they feel bad for you, or I'm failing as a mom, or whatever. I can wallow and complain and stay in the pity party listening to all my experience and be miserable, never making it across that ridgepole. Or I can go back to scripture and be reminded of who I am in him. Emotions can be a really hard one. Sometimes they feel so real.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people think that they can back up what they're feeling with what would seem like facts. But when I find myself in an emotion or a state of mind that isn't from God, I go back to what is true. So if I'm sad or angry or hurt, maybe even prideful, instead of justifying my feelings and staying there, I listen to fact, also scripture. Kind of interchangeable throughout this.
Yeah, I think that honestly, when you were reading that, I kind of looked at it from like the opposite angle of like people. So like in church, if you want to start something or you want to do something and it's the same situation, you have fact and then you have people telling you if you can or can't.
Right.
So like, oh, I tried that ministry and I wasn't able to do it, so you're not going to be able to do it. Whereas fact is God's calling me to do this. I'm going to be able to do this. You weren't able to. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to be able to.
Right,
The
exactly.
character experience can be people giving their experience. Experience can be yourself knowing, all right, I've tried this 300 times and all 300 times I failed.
Yeah.
That could be experience. But experience can also be reality.
Yeah.
Experience can be what you see around you, what you hear, what you feel, right? It can be experience isn't the character experience isn't necessarily your experience, but it's what you're experiencing.
Right.
Yeah.
It can also be interchanged. Eric preached a message lately. He interchanged it with feelings.
Yeah. Was it feelings?
Or,
I think it was
feelings. So that kind of can be interchangeable. Basically, things that aren't solid.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what you can kind of interchange that with. And Nathan, actually, if you go back and you were to go to where I got this from, he talks about our experience specifically, if that's the character, when you follow fact enough, your experience is going to eventually line up with fact,
Yes.
and you'll all walk across together.
Right.
Yep.
And that's the goal of Christianity, is
Right,
for them to
right.
align.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is too, and we're going to talk about this some next week, 2 weeks from now, right?
Yes.
You're
yes.
next week.
Yeah.
I'm next week.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I don't know what we'll talk about
Yeah.
next week, but the week after that.
Surprise,
Sometimes, so when we say fact, right, a lot of times, what I'm trying to say is a lot of times we look at what we see. So right now I see Kevin right here. That is a fact.
It is a fact.
Is it?
Well, that's what I want to ask. Is
Really?
it? Because a lot of it, when as a Christian, it does not require faith when I see him next to me. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
What is the fact? What God says, not what I see.
Yep.
So sometimes fact and reality don't align. Does
Right.
Yeah.
that make sense? I know that's kind of confusing, but
Because sometimes what you see is not what the fact actually is,
Yeah.
which is
Right.
a whole series.
Right, yeah.
Which was what
I
Nathan
mean,
talked about last
right.
week.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing when we were talking about like going into like a haunted house or
Yeah.
a werewolf
Right.
or something like.
sight deceives you.
Exactly. Like we see that werewolf there. Like there's no denying there's
Right.
something in front of us.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know what I mean? But it's up to us to say, wait, werewolves aren't real. That's a guy in a costume. You know what I mean?
So maybe so another way of saying fact is truth.
Right.
Yes.
And I guess that's the difference. Like fact, because you could say fact, I see the werewolf, but the truth is a werewolf's not real, though I
Right,
see it.
right.
You see
Yes,
the
right.
difference? So
Right.
Our truth comes from the Bible. So I think I've talked to you about it before, but like so we all have our truth is the Bible. So that's a baseline. So we can always come back to the Bible.
Right.
No matter what is happening anywhere, whoever, we have the Bible. Well, if you don't have the Bible, you don't have that truth,
Yeah.
because your truth could be down here one day, it
Right.
could be up here one day.
yeah.
And
Right.
so like,
It's
we
very-
at least have a solid foundation on our truth.
Well, and really, most non-Christians or even Christians who aren't living by the Bible, they're walking that ridgepole. Well, they're really not, but they're following example. They're following
Yeah.
experience. They're living their life based upon experience, and that's where you get the ups and downs.
Right,
That's where you get the
right.
rocky life, is
Right.
because you're just basing what you feel. You know, how I live is based on what I feel, what I see, what I hear, what I'm told, what I've done before.
Yep.
There's no solidity there.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
no solid rock beneath their
Right.
feet. Only in following the facts, only in following truth, only in following the Bible. Can you have that assurity that no matter what you see, you know the truth?
Right.
Right, gives you like that benchmark to compare
Right.
all other
Right.
things
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Because we can't, like the four of us sitting here, like we could talk about experiences that we had, but I'm pretty sure we all will react differently to a certain situation.
Right.
You know what I mean? And your experience tells you one thing,
Yep.
and my experience in it
Yeah.
could tell me
Right.
something totally
Yeah.
opposite.
So, would you allow Miss Host,
Oh no.
Miss Hostess,
Do you need the
Miss Twinkie? I know I have.
the pedal?
That's not what I thought you said. Okay, so Bible. Since you're talking about it, let's bring an example from the Bible, because it really is. You know, when you read their stories, it just seems so obvious. In our
Yeah,
life,
right.
it's like I don't see it. So the story of Jesus in the boat sleeping, and he's there with the disciples.
Right.
What did experience say in that situation?
Yeah. That
You're going to die.
Yeah.
We are going to die.
Yes.
We haven't said that line in a long
just
time.
get it well.
So the storm, right? The experience said it is storming. The boat is sinking.
And in
the water-
experience,
yeah, and experience,
death.
death. Yeah, experience
Right.
says we aren't going to make it. Experience said, go wake him up. What if they would have stopped? Paul, like a movie scene.
They
right?
were fishermen.
They were fishermen. That was a lot of their experience. That was
Yeah.
the problem.
Right.
From
Yeah.
what they knew, storms don't end well on the Sea of
Yes.
Galilee.
Yeah.
So if we'd had a cinematic, theatrical movement here, and we'd have paused the whole thing, and like the
frozen.
waves, no, the people are still moving.
Oh.
But the waves are frozen in place. The wind stopped. The boat's like on an angle.
Yeah.
And the disciples are like, all right, let's think about this. What do we know is true? Because they had already, I believe, I could be mistaken, but I believe already at this point they've already established that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God.
Yeah.
Yes.
They said that factually. They knew the facts, but they were relying on what they saw. So if they'd have paused, everything's frozen. Egyptian cactuses. Ole. If everything's frozen,
Goose.
and they say, okay, what do I know is true? God is in the boat. God, the
sleeping.
maker of the ocean, is in the boat, and he's asleep. What should I do? I should sleep.
Yep.
I should not be afraid. I should follow truth, follow
Yep.
the facts. What is he doing? The facts are sleeping.
Yep.
He's got his stuffy and blanky, and I don't know.
He might.
He's sleeping, right?
He might.
And so I should follow the facts, and maybe I should curl up next to him.
Yep.
Experience said, everybody panic!
Yes.
Now start wake him up so he can help us bail out the boat. And so that scene right there is a perfect example of what we're talking about. Which are you going to follow? Are you going to follow? Because do we see in that scene how real the waves were to them? It wasn't like we were saying, it's a metaphorical wave. No, it was literally a death.
It
wasn't just a storm in their life.
They were going to die.
No, it was a
water.
literal wave
Yeah.
storm,
Yeah.
and yet they had to deny what they saw. Biblically, what Jesus wanted in that scene, because he rebukes them afterwards, baby puny faith. What he wanted from that was them to trust him through, in spite of what they saw and felt.
I think that's really hard
It seems
for
so
us.
obvious in that story,
Yeah.
but it's like in our lives,
It's hard for us because I think the problem is we put too much logic into everything. So think about even Jericho. They were like, you have to do this seven times, and then it will happen.
Right.
Well, what do you mean? That doesn't just happen.
Right.
You don't blow a trumpet and walls fall down. That's just not how that works.
Right.
And so in our heads nowadays we'd be like, yeah, that
Makes no
sounds good, God,
sense,
but that does not happen. We're gonna have to get a wrecking ball.
If we see them doubt, we're like, well,
Why would you doubt me? But do we see? So whether it's the boat sleeping thing, whether it's the Jericho rolls, are really, to boil it all down, anywhere in the Bible faith is used? Do you see how there was no logic, no conclusion drawn from reality? It was defying that.
Yep.
And that's what we're going to talk about in a couple of weeks. Is literally the definition of faith is what can't be seen.
Yeah.
What doesn't make sense is going to be taking place by God. But again, in our lives, we logical it out. We try to conclude and arrange and make sense. Okay, this is what I see. I know this has to be fact.
Yeah.
No, what he has said is fact, and that's true.
So could we say then that Satan is the father of logic? Because the way I see it is that through our lives, we're given logical, this is why this works. This is why this works. So a person who continually follows logic is going to lack faith because they're going to always look for how is this happening. Okay?
I would add one little word to that synopsis: earthly logic.
Okay.
Because the Bible is
Fair.
completely logical if
Yeah.
you knew what God knew.
Yeah.
The problem is we don't know what God knows. we
Right,
don't see what God sees.
Right. Yeah.
So, anyways.
Yeah. Because I had a teacher friend tell me one time, we were talking about science and everything, and I just threw off an offhand remark, well, we aren't all brothers and sisters, we all come from the same, and she goes, and I was like, you don't believe that? And she goes, well, no. And it surprised me because we had talked about church and everything else, previously. And she goes, I have to leave a little bit of room for science. Okay. And at the time, it just struck me as, oh, well, you're a teacher. That's, you know what I mean? That's your thing. But then, the more I think about even today, we have to, at some point in our faith, we have to take all the experience, all the logic, all the everything, and throw it out the window because we can't have faith while we're still clinging to that. We can't say, well, I tied this rope to this, and this rope should support my faith. I mean, should support my weight. Right. So I should be good. Right. But God help me out. Yeah. Okay. It's we're really putting our faith in how well we tie that knot to the pole. You know what I mean? So it's a very worldly logic is a very tricky subject because we're taught that it applies. Right. You know what I mean?
And how back to the werewolf, which we should have made that the mascot for the month.
It's just a werewolf.
You can't get rid of him.
We could have had
how
standing in the back.
Soon. But how difficult is it for a lost person to walk up to them and say, "There's no werewolf," while you're staring at it? But that's what you're talking about. It's you don't have to rely on the logic of science, but I see it. How do you can't? And that's I think we talked about, was it the first episode? You can't make them see that. You have to have heavenly eyes and heavenly minds to know the truth, which is the facts, the truth of the Bible. I want to go back to we're hijacking. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Since you wrote nothing, very puny tiny.
I tried to make it bigger font.
That doesn't help. I do both. I mean, giant
you need to make it font and then read it slower.
Okay, my bad.
Try it again. No.
I can't see anything.
So to bring it back full circle, so back to the disciples in the boat with sleeping Jesus. So you said, which I love so much, and I don't know that I'm even there, and I think that's something that we should all strive for, but we should have our fact, faith, and experience all align. So say that scene comes around part 2, right, the sequel, and Jesus is sleeping in the bottom of the boat, and Peter and John and James and Bartholomew and the rest of the gang are, why they don't use his name more often? It's such a cool name. Side note, Bartholomew, just allow your tongue to say that once.
No. I will say it wrong.
See, it's a great name.
But he said it weird too. I was
But
afraid.
he'd be called Bart. I mean, Bart. Who's going to say the whole name?
Barth. Never mind.
So
anyways, Jesus.
Malamule.
I do like that one. So anyways, back to Jesus. So, right, the sequel comes around. Storm comes up again. They're like, we've been here before. I remember this. If they would allow their experience to align with the fact and remember what happened last time, all of a sudden last time's storm is now working for my benefit because I remember.
Yeah.
And now my fact, my faith, and experience are aligned. And you know what I do? You guys hear lightning? You hear that thunder? Get your pillows.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And that's when we align it. But most of us are like living like life or death. We're not going to make it from one storm to the next.
Yeah.
And we don't allow our experience from the past storm to help us in the next
It's almost like Groundhog Day.
yeah, like all over
Every
again
day.
for all your life. And yet the whole point is, Peter tells us, I think James tells us too, trials are valuable. They're the proving of faith. And what that means is it's aligning fact, faith, and experience. It's allowing them to line up to use for your benefit.
I kind of think about it as like, and I'm a little bit of a nerd. I don't know if you guys knew
You
this.
don't say.
I don't know if you knew that.
Is your name Barth in another life?
It is. No, but like I kind of think about it like when I think of like life, I kind of think almost like a video game, and I think of like the creator of a video game watching someone else play it, and then they're sitting there like, you're not getting this puzzle. Like, why can't you see that this is how this puzzle? And I feel like that's how God looks at
in an
us.
escape room at camp.
Yeah. Oh wow, there's a book on the floor. Yeah, there's a star on it. No, but that's the thing is like I feel like when God watches down, he's just like, it's right there. The answer is right here, but you're not willing to take the things that I've given you in prior times and apply it to the situation here.
Yep.
Which as in a video game, a little bit of a nerd here too, but it's like, like as you get deeper into the game, it really becomes repetitive. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this was like 3 levels ago. I'll just like they made like one little new wrinkle in it that's pretty obvious to figure it out. But
I've seen that turtle with wings before. You know what I mean? That was good.
So, like, first, like I like to think that if we're in the video game and God is looking down on us, He's not like. You know, like,
That's how I would be.
But like, I would think like God is just like looking at us like, okay, what are they doing over here? And like kind of look back to us like He's not aggravated that we don't see what He sees as the obvious because He knows that He hasn't revealed everything to us. Okay, and I think that even from birth, we as human beings of the flesh. We want to know why we're doing something and what's the final outcome. Like we were just talking out in the fellowship hall, and Miguel was talking about how argumentative Jonah can be, and he's like I'll say put the if I say put the hot sauce in the refrigerator, he's gonna say why.
I have a feeling he says that often.
True.
And then I said, well, what if you said to him so it doesn't spoil, and he's gonna say, well, where do I put it in the refrigerator? Okay. And then I said, well, what if you said put it in the refrigerator next to the milk? And then he's going to say, what side? Like, you know what I mean?
Skim or whole?
So, you know, so
we don't
to
have
us, because we want to know everything. And I constantly relate, like, God's relationship to us. Okay. You all have young children. Well, soon to have.
Hers is super young.
Mine is super young.
Super young.
Mine is still baking.
Mine is 0.
So like, ideally, you would love to be able to say, Juliet, get your shoes on. Let's go.
I would not love it if she did that.
Okay. And
Which
like,
side of the milk, Dad?
and even like the best of like they'll grab their shoes. And as they're walking, they put them on. They're gonna say, "Where are we going?" Okay. And
Which
you
shoes?
Exactly. What shoes? Where are we going? And all you want is grab the closest pair of shoes, and we're out the door. Okay. So that's kind of the way we are. Like we want to know. And it's a stumbling block for our faith because we want like like we can have the best way to put it is the less we have involved, the more we're willing to trust faith.
Right.
Yep.
Okay? The more skin, as they say, that we have in the game, the more we want to be able to control that
Right.
game. You
Yep.
know, and it's
We want
unfortunately
to force our experience onto faith.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was thinking the video game. Why not? It's funsies. I am not a video game nerd.
He knows Mario.
I throw up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I throw up if I play video games. Like I
Yeah.
get so motion sick just looking at the screen. It's a sad life, but
Yeah.
we all have our crosses to bear. So what I was thinking was, so God is the video game master, right? This is taking somewhat of a Hunger Game turns, but he's the game master, right? He's the head thing. So as you're playing the game, though, God is sovereign in that video game, and He's moving pieces. So He's like, all right, they didn't get that. Let's move this around.
Yeah.
And he's Romans 8:28ing it. What's
Yes.
he doing? He's working it for good. You know what? They didn't get that storm the first time. Peter sunk. Let's try that again.
Yep.
Let's move
Yeah.
the pieces again to work it for their good,
Yep.
for God's glory.
Yep.
And yet we're like, oh, a storm. And he's like, yeah, no, round again. Let's
Like
go
goldfish.
again. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Go again.
literally.
Do it one more
but
time.
he's working. His goal is His glory, and His goal is for us to glorify Him. And so he's working that game specifically, arranging the levels, arranging the obstacles and the puzzles, trying to leverage
Yep.
the most out of our faith to get Him
Right.
the most glory. But if we bypass and if we skirt around all of the trials and storms, the game's really pointless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Does that fit into a video game analogy? I'm
No, you did
very
great.
a
It
novice.
does.
I
Because
don't-
if you miss one part, you're going to miss a lot of other parts.
Right.
Exactly,
Because
yeah.
you need this part to be able to finish this part. There's a lot of, I actually just thought about this. There's a game where you can, from the get-go, go to the boss, the main boss.
Can you say get-go again?
Get-go.
That's interesting. Okay, go ahead.
I heard gecko the first
That's what
time.
I was like, is this a Geico commercial?
This is, you can save 15% or more. No, but you can go straight to the boss, the head boss, as soon as you start the game. But you are going to lose because you don't have
What you did all the
any of the
levels.
stuff that you
You
need.
need, right,
You can
right.
get to him,
Yeah.
you can face it, but you're not going to be able to do what you need to do because you're
I was
going to be
kinda
missing
thinking of
things.
Corey. Ten Boone.
Nice.
I thought you meant like the quarry.
No, not Corey.
We think a lot on this episode.
You tried to pronounce that differently and it was the same.
I heard it differently. Yeah, Corey or Corey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyhow, the suitcase story, which wasn't from that book, so maybe you haven't heard that story. But a two-sided ticket's pretty much the same story.
Yeah, yeah.
But basically, so her father was a watch aficionado. He fixed
Yeah.
watches in World War II. So he traveled, carried a heavy suitcase full of watch parts. And so she did say this in this book. I'm 95% sure. Anyhow, it doesn't matter. She said this at some point in
I
her
feel
life.
like you feel 95%.
So she asked her father about this one area, this one topic, and she didn't understand. And so her father, which he's like the greatest guy in the whole book, like just wonderful guy. What was his name? He was swell.
She kept referring to him as dad.
Dad, father. What was his name? Well, it is Casper.
Yeah.
It was Casper.
Was he friendly?
anyways. He was friendly. Anyhow, so his daughter asked about this trying thing. She doesn't understand. So Casper and all of his wisdom, which is what his life was all about, doesn't answer Corey. He goes over to the rack and he gets his heavy suitcase down that's full of watch parts and weighs a ton. And he says, Corey, pick that up. And she says, I can't. And he says, exactly. You've not yet come to the age where you're able to handle that. And that's our Christian life.
Yep.
There's a reason. So, we have to get what we need to endure. And that's
Yes.
kind of what you're saying.
Yes.
Even with the storm situation, faith has to build, faith has to grow, faith has to increase in order for us to have what we're going to need on level 47.
Yes.
Or level, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so if you want to bypass and go straight to level 47 without
Yeah.
getting all the things you need, you're not going to be able to lift that suitcase. You're not going to be able to have the ability, the
Yep.
grace, the faith to do that, and experience is going to win out.
Yep.
And so I guess bottom line, we need to embrace difficulty as an opportunity for growth of faith.
Yes.
That's a great way to put it. But how do you, as four Christians sitting here and another one over there, like, we can't consistently do that. You know what I mean? Because, like, I'm sure, like, everyone says, like, well, tomorrow's Monday, okay? And I kind of look at that as, yeah, but it's not really all that doomy, gloomy,
Yeah.
guys. Like, you just take this stuff
just
with
a
you.
day.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like churches try to scare you from Monday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's true. That's
Tomorrow's Monday, so, you better...
You're going to have to go back out into the world. Yeah.
Got to go back out there, son. But so we struggle, like I said before, like if it's no big deal, sure, God, you have this. You know what I mean? Like I'm never going to worry about it because it's really not something that we have to worry about,
Yeah.
okay? But if it's like an impending doom, like you're on that boat, okay, and the one person that you have the most confidence and faith in is sleeping, snoring away, okay, as if he doesn't know it's storming.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I guess when you look at it, and
when
like,
I look at that story, I see Jesus like one eye. Like,
Right.
right, he's got his pillow. Like, I'm sorry to sleep.
As soon as they like look
Yeah,
at him,
it's
he's
just
like,
but like even still, like if you have faith in something, okay, and that something is, Jesus sleeping on the boat, then your experience will actually say, hey, that's what they're doing. That's what I should do. Okay, because that's how they're dealing with it. So let's all just take a nap.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we can do that at times. But like I said, like until we get to a point where we get consistent at it, I think each trial that we face builds our faith to have that consistency.
Right.
Because if we were just never challenged, that would be a very empty faith.
I think it's a change of mindset.
That's what I was exactly
Because
thinking.
so it's the whole thing of I feel like every time we go through something, we're always like, oh, we got by with the skin of our teeth. You know what I mean? We never attribute it to God fixing it or that the whole time God had it in his hand. You just assume that he just came in and swooped in right at the last second. It was like something that, you had to, it was just this circumstance only. Yeah. And that's not how it is.
Well, I was even thinking viewing, so right now, before the storm gets here, a mindset of the next storm is an opportunity.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times we're all right, Rush, get me out of this. We're praying, remove the thorn, do whatever it takes, do whatever it takes, hurry, get this, get it out of here. But it should be, this is an opportunity. So Eric talked about this a lot, but when you're like, most people don't like pain.
Yep.
And yet, do you know how it hurts them? Yeah. But do you know how many people actually intentionally pain their body? They hurt their body daily by doing what? By working out. Why? Because they know the end result is worth it.
Yep.
Well, why does that not
Very
apply
good
spiritually?
point. Very good
We're
point.
willing to endure difficulty when it's working out. Probably not the four of us, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They sure do, protein powder.
You can do protein powder. You can do protein powder
Don't you
without
sprinkle
working
it on
out.
top of your head while you work out? Isn't that how that works?
That's funny because, like, just a little quick sidebar here. Like, we never do this. But like, my meme of the week, I should say, is like it's like a little baby.
Oh, should.
Why don't we have memes of the week? I'm sorry, that distracted me. Go right ahead.
Yeah. So like, I like Baby Yoda. So like, Baby Yoda memes, and he's like, someone's telling him like, you can't eat junk food and not exercise and have abs. And he says back to him, he goes, first of all, through God, all things are possible. So jot that down. So that's, the whole, pain, working out, thing just like brought that to the surface of my mind. But like, you're absolutely right. As the experience, like how many times we have to experience God's good grace for us to realize this is pretty consistently happening in my life. Like, as long as I can remember, this has been happening.
Yeah.
So why am I questioning it?
Yeah.
We're
now?
dumb goldfish. That's the reason why.
So let me turn the tables. You're not bringing anything to this table that you opened. I just wanted to state that out loud.
I don't know if you should be opening tables.
Fine, worms in a can.
That's good.
That
I like
makes
that.
more
Okay.
Good analogy.
So again, I think I mentioned this earlier. Peter refers to trials, fiery. He literally says fiery, which ooh, hot, not good. Ouch. Fiery trials prove the value of our faith. So yes, it's painful, but we need to view trials as an opportunity to increase the value of our faith. So my fear is, in the modern day we live in, most Christians are going to get to heaven with cheap dollar store faith, $1.25 fake
It's
gold.
gonna burn.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's gonna be like, oh, that's not good.
Wood, hay, and stubble.
Wood, hay, and stubble. So And what Peter says is the more you go through the fire, the more often that fire occurs, the hotter the flames get, the more the value increases.
Yep.
So should we not be viewing trials and viewing storms as an opportunity to, all right, and it's not about money. Like obviously this is a symbolism, but as an opportunity to increase what we have, to increase the value, to increase the worth. What if we went into the next storm, we're like, oh boy, it's going to be, gold this time, or silver, or gems, or aluminum foil. Like at least
Maybe we
it's
should
not
get a chart.
a chart.
For the church. Everyone has their name, and everyone, when they go through things, they get different gems.
But does that worry anybody besides me that in our generation we have invaluable faith?
Yeah.
We have faith that's puny baby. That we have faith that Jesus criticized. We have faith that is $1.25 from the Dollar Tree. Right. That's the kind of faith we have. There's no value. Why? Because we're rushing through storms. We're rushing through fires. We're not learning the lessons from fires. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so
anything that's an inconvenience is just considered bad in our life. It has
Right.
nothing. We don't think we can grow from it. We can learn from it. It's inconvenient. Get it out of my
And
face.
so again, back to the exercising. Like if you see the end goal, whether it's abs, whether it's whatever it is, skinny mini, whatever.
Not making noise when you get off the couch.
That would be swell. What kind of noises were you talking about? Okay, me too. But more of my knees.
Like duct tape.
I hear lots of poppy crying. Anyways, this is sad.
We're old.
But we look at like people who exercise. They look at the end goal and they think this pain is worth it. Is our faith and the end result of our faith not more worth it? Like, should that not be, the value of our faith be something that's worth enduring pain for?
Yep.
And I think again, it's just a mindset thing. And I think your question earlier, a long time ago, was basically like, how do we get there? How do we do that? How do we just curl up next to him when reality is telling us all these things? Well, I think that's not the foolproof answer, but I think that is the first step is changing our mind. What if tomorrow every storm is an opportunity? What if tomorrow every storm is a chance to prove fact who already watched the ridgepole?
Yep.
Jesus has already told us we have all things we need at all times for faith and for life and godliness.
Yep.
So what if I knew that in storms on ships, in broken legs on roller coasters, and werewolves in haunted houses, and all things I know.
Centers.
Yeah, space. Oh, don't forget Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah.
In all
That one in there.
situations of life, I know I have all that I need for this.
Yep.
And so because of that, I trust faith. I trust fact, and I follow him across the ridgepole.
Yep.
So, like, how many times, there are times in my life where I'm facing a difficulty, okay, and I say, I'm going to give this to God. God's going to see me through it, and, it works out.
Yep.
Okay? And then there are times in my life where it's like, oh, this is kind of tough, so God, I know you're there, but I'm going to step in. And just
Help
just
you out
to
a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm going to help out. You know what I mean? And then, of course, we get to the point where I'm going to do this with God behind me.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we literally, flip the whole thing around. So the more times that we can go into a situation knowing beforehand that God is going to handle it, and we believe that, and we say it, and we know it, okay, the easier it is, because oftentimes we go through a trial, and it's not till we get through the trial that we recognize God. You know what I mean? It's like, I made it. Thank God for carrying me through this. Instead of as he's carrying us through us, we never think like, God, thanks for this piggyback ride. I'm really enjoying you through this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you said, it's a mindset, you know what I mean? Of just, because the way the world is just the world, okay, we have to consciously put God first, okay? Because the world is constantly telling us, that's a great backup plan.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
So maybe the second step then is the mindset has to change. So we're on this bar and ridgepole, right? And the way I tell the story,
That's razor sharp.
it's no, that's the original. That's
what
Watch
Eric
Me Need.
said, yeah.
But the way I tell it is like, so I actually had graphics.
I was gonna ask you if you could
So
make
there's
me
a
one, but I
barn
didn't.
with the ridgepole, and you're on the ladder. And beyond you is Jesus, fact, who's already walked it. He's done it. It's done. He walked the impossible. Below you on the bottom, on the ground, is experience trying to get you to come down the ladder. So here you are torn between. Who do I follow? Do I come down off the ladder to experience, or do I walk across with fact? So maybe step 2 would be duct tape experience's mouth shut. Like, you know what I mean? Or block out experience, or do whatever you have to eliminate the input of experience.
Yeah.
Well, if you're inputting the Bible more and more,
Right.
Yeah.
more so than all of those experiences and feelings and emotions, then that's gonna make that part a lot easier.
Yeah. You'll hear him louder if you
Right.
don't hear him louder.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
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 It's a good point to bring up the Bible in that because, like they talked about this morning, the more you read your Bible, it builds your faith. And I'm not going to say that you're going to be walking down the street and go, look, a lion's den, and someone grabs you and you're like, I know exactly what to do here.
I read that story.
Exactly. Read that. Exactly. But it's going to be a different trial, a different tribulation.
Which the irony is, I think that's how most Christians view Christianity. They think it's just going to be a repeat of the scenes, and I know what to do then.
Walk around, look for a lion's den. I want to jump in there.
Yeah, I think that's how most of us view trials. Is he's going to give us the
same one.
No, even in your own life, he's not going to more likely repeat that same identical thing twice because you've already learned that lesson. You can't grow. And so what Nathan talks about with back to exercising is that if you exercise with 5 pounds on either side of a bar and you never increase it, you're never going to be stronger than that 5 pounds. And so how do you increase the strength? You add on 5 more pounds to either side. And that's what increases your strength is the weight is the ante is upped, if you will. It's the same with our trials. He's going to change the trials. He'll probably increase the fire of the trials.
Right.
And the reason is that's how our faith grows. Your faith cannot grow if a trial is baseline the same every time.
But which back to the video game thing is that I'm the guy that gets a video game where's the easiest setting? Toddler. Yes, I'm gonna go to this.
Do video games have settings like that?
They have settings,
They have easy, medium, and hard. Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
I always play on easy because I'm there for the enjoyment of just
Mario doesn't have
Back
that.
in my day, when the background was 1D.
Okay, so
You
when
can only go one
so
direction.
you have Mario Kart and you have the different CCs.
You have to know what that means. Copyrights?
No. The 10, the 100, the 200,
I don't know. I've never played Mario Karts.
On the DS?
No.
Yes.
I don't think so.
You played Plus.
I played with you.
No.
Didn't mean anything to you.
He was the guy looking at the wrong screen, crashing into the wall.
Whoever they played Tetris. Why isn't my car going anywhere?
Exactly, but my point is that so I can take that video game, okay, to Jamie and say, Jamie, I have mastered this video game. I am so good at it, I don't even lose a life, okay. And then I go to her house and play it, and she puts it on medium, okay, and I'm like. I have no idea.
When I go to get a drink, you turn it back to easy.
Exactly. Then she comes back, I put it to hard. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's the same application as in if we stay in easy mode, you know what I mean? We don't gain. We just end up with cheap.
What you're doing is you're going through the motions.
Right, yeah.
And that's what really our churches
And you're
are
getting a
filled
false
with.
sense of accomplishment.
Exactly,
I beat this.
Yeah, and you're
on
like, okay,
easy.
toddler. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, guys, we've had quite the plethora of content,
Yeah.
video games, working out,
It felt
sinking.
it felt like a potluck.
Yeah, no, I think more like poopery. I felt just
Potpourri.
sure thing. You did it. Copyright shame. It's all these versions. But just we've got quite the ensemble of
We have something for
charcuterie
everybody.
board topics today.
That's good. That's good.
You did wonderful.
Thank you. I worked hard on this one. You guys all your
It felt like
so well.
Friendsgiving. That's what it felt like.
Friendsgiving,
Friendsgiving.
Next month.
All right.
Alrighty. So the quote of today is actually from Nathan Johnson. It was kind of his summary of the story, and I thought it was a good quote. The only hope I have to live the Christian life is not to base it upon my life, experience, or what I've seen in the past. I must take every step moving forward on the solid rock, unchanging, life-enabling, victorious-giving foundation of Scripture. Even if I have never experienced victory and triumph before, I move forward, trusting that what God says in Scripture is truth. Therefore, if I will allow the Spirit to produce it in my life, I will walk forward in obedience while living a surrendered and dependent life upon the only one who can accomplish His word in my life.
That's good.
Very good. Very good.
That was Nathan Johnson. Did I say that?
Yes, you did.
Okay,
You did. You did. You're good.
One more time. That's by Nathan Johnson.
That was by Nathan Johnson. Make sure he gets the credit for it.
Credit.
And then the feature content today is Truth I'm Standing On by Leanna.
Leanna Crawford.
The good one.
It's very good. Very, very good.
Jimmy gets the credit for that one.
Oh, yes. I do.
Yes.
Yes. That is my credit.
Well, it's a quiet moment, so I'm going to say bye now.
Just goodbye. Oops, smacked it.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Okay, bye guys.